Good. All right, so here's our A minor pentatonic box number 1. And what happens is if we want to play in a different key, we're like, okay, we're in G now. And then we just shift the box over and voila, that's our only option. And maybe if you're good, you know how to do box 4 of the pentatonic scale. And box 4 of the pentatonic scale has your root note on the A string. So now you also know, okay, if I'm playing A minor pentatonic, I find the A right here on the 12th fret, and I can play this box. And most people will spend their life on those two patterns, and you can get a lot out of it, so not knocking it at all. But it really still leaves you on a 3-fret fragment, and maybe you can slide a little bit out of this, but here's what I'm getting at. Instead of doing that, I teach my students this approach. And I teach this approach with pentatonics. I teach a slightly similar approach with the modes. And then I have my own way of teaching the chords too, so that you interlock all of these together. So this is just 2 strings of the pentatonic scale. And the crazy thing is that you can take this little 4-note block and you can paste it starting on any A. Now the only one that gets screwy is the G string to the B string because it's tuned differently.
Okay.
So there's a 1-fret shift. So that one breaks the rule. But once I light these all up and start connecting them, you're going to see it's just the same shape being played everywhere. Just a little 2-string pattern. Do you see how I'm getting this?
Yeah, I understand what you're doing there.
All right, it's just this shape, but I'm starting it on each A note. Now see how much more of the fretboard you have to cover?
Yes, I do.
All right, and then here is pentatonic box 1. Oops. Okay, so there's the box shape. So let's just attach the cells to it using the different A's that you've now learned. So I haven't taught you anything new. I actually just took something you already know and made you aware that you can move it around a lot more than you realized. And look at how much more of the fretboard's available to you now.
Yeah, I see that.
Okay, you're not stuck in a box anymore. Now the downside is most people are going to still use the box as their reference point, and then they'll start to shift over here. So my goal is to instead break you away from using minor pentatonic box entirely. And that's what I would suggest. Like, go on a detox where you don't use the pentatonic scale shape at all and force yourself to practice using something different. Because where most people have a hard time being creative, it's because they give themselves the option to be creative endlessly. And when you have unlimited creativity, you end up just creating the same way you normally would. What you have to do is be creative, but put restrictions on yourself. So I'm going to use the pentatonic box, but I'm not allowed to play string 6 and string 4. Okay, that's a rule. And now you have to create within this new rule, and that forces you to think differently. So instead of box 1, what I would have you do is cell 1, which is starting on all of the A notes. Let's go on all the A notes, and then you just paste this little pattern on all of the A notes. And once you feel like you can do that no problem, then you can start combining it with the full pentatonic box that you know. You're going to be sliding all over the place, man, and you're going to be approaching things from a different way because you're not going straight up and down. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's my challenge for you, man. So here's what I'd like to do. I'm going to send you this video afterwards. I'll upload it to YouTube. And if you got some time in the next day or two, just if you have any questions about this, just go through it, learn it as best you can, and throw on a backing track and just riff over this, and I'll see if I can give you some more suggestions. But if you do this one thing, you'll open up the entire fretboard in a totally different
Should I
way.
just stick with A, or should I try it with some other notes? Or
Whatever you're comfortable with. If the point is that when you get really good at this, an A, and then I say, all right, this blues goes A, D, and E. Well, then going back to our original discussion about learning the notes, when it switches from the A minor to the D minor, your brain needs to light up all the D notes now.
okay,
And then it can attach cell 1 to all of those notes. So what most guys do, Ricky, and this is possibly what you're falling into, is you know that when you play a blues or something, yeah, you can just stay in the pentatonic scale and go up and down it, and you're not going to hit any notes that sound like shit. But
yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah,
but you're not going to be changing with the chord. You just happen to pick the one scale that doesn't have any offensive notes, but you're not actually changing the way you play as the chords go by. And
no, I'm not.
and-
That's exactly it. Yeah.
and that's the challenge, and that's the problem right there. You can learn all the scales in the world, and you can learn all the pentatonics in the world, but when you're playing, if your mind doesn't change what its where the one is when you're soloing, then you're just going up and down patterns. Your ear isn't being pulled anywhere, your hands aren't targeting any particular note, and you'll always just end up and down. So my biggest suggestion to you is start doing this on one chord, and I just used A as an example.
Okay.
You feel really comfortable with that, maybe add a second chord if you're able to make like a looping, if you have like a looping pedal or something, and
Yeah.
and have like 4 bars of A minor, and then 4 bars of B minor. So that's going to force you to take this entire pattern and move it up a whole step and target the B notes.
Okay.
But all the patterns are the same. It's just you shifted them, and it's going to force you to change to the new chord, because the chord progression that I gave you as an example, A minor to B minor, you can't just sit on one pentatonic and make it sound good. The second the chord changes, you're going to hear right away that all of the notes that sounded great all of a sudden sound really bad. So putting yourself in a scenario where you have to listen to the chords changing and changing with it will make a big difference. So that's my challenge to you, man. Throw on a track, mess
Okay.
around with this, send me a video, and we'll take it from there.
All right. Thank you much.
No problem, man. I'm going to send you that video in a second.
Okay.
Alrighty.